Sitting in the Hall of Fame, and the world is going to know your name. Oh, yeah. The Script and Will I Am with Hall of Fame. This is my Hall of Fame. Welcome to Personality Profile on Joy 99.7 FM. You know, the price of success is hard work, dedication to the job at hand, the determination that whether we win or lose, we have applied the best of ourselves to the task at hand. Look, my guest tonight has applied himself in the best way possible in serving Mother Ghana in various capacities. And tonight we celebrate him and get to know his story on Personality Profile on Joy 99.7 FM. Our personality today is a politician, very young man. Yeah, young indeed. Look, I give him a 45, but looks like he's actually even lesser than that. Looks about 35 thereabouts, but for the gray hair. But no, he looks so young, hale and hearty. And I hope to pick some of the tips on keeping young, because he does look very well. He's the former Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, GNPC. He's a member of the National Democratic Congress of Ghana as well. But before he was appointed CEO of GNPC, he was also the CEO of the NPA, the National Petroleum Authority. Please help me welcome to our Hall of Fame and to Personality Profile, Mr. Alex Kofi Mensah Mode, my guest on Personality Profile this evening on Joy 99.7 FM. Chairman, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
And all those cheers are yours.
I can hear them. I'm wondering where they're from, but I can hear them.
How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
Look, we got to start off with you giving us, showing us where the fountain of youth is. Well, because I was totally amazed when you told me that, you met your wife 40 years ago.
Absolutely.
And I started doing the math, and I'm like, well, how come you look 35 then?
You're a very kind man.
Oh, no, it's amazing.
And I know it's going to get you very far.
Amen.
But I was wondering, this morning I spoke to my wife and I said, I just got a message that I had to be on this show tonight. And she said, what show is that? I said, something about profile, something. And she said, oh, Lexus. And I said, you know him? He said, yeah, I listen to him every Thursday or so. And I said, I see. He said, well, I'm going to skip the gym and go and listen to him. I said, you're not listening to me? She said, no. So I said, I need to come and check you out and wonder.
Regards to your wife.
Who's this guy? I will. So you have a finance at home.
I'm very sure she's listening now. Regards going out to you, Mrs. What's her name?
Mariel.
Yes. Well, thanks a lot for always listening to Drive Time on Joy. Today we have your man in the studio, and hopefully he will give us a bit of the tips in the house. Yeah. If I need verification, I'll call you, Mario.
Now we're getting personal.
Yes, we are. But tell me, how do you keep so young and so fresh?
Well, it's
good genes or good docs.
I think it's good genes. I also think you have to take care of yourself. You have to watch what you eat. I like sweet things. So once you like sweet things, you have to burn the energy, because you're young, so you have a high metabolism. My metabolism is decreasing, so I have to swim. I have to exercise. And,
so what?
The kind of exercise I do is I swim. I try and swim every day, over an hour and a half or something like that.
Over an hour
and a half, yeah.
Every day.
Yeah. Unfortunately, today, because of a program, I had to cut it short. I had to do only 45 minutes. But yes.
Well, you're gonna do the 20 after you're done. Yeah.
I don't know. It may be too late. It may be raining. So
Mariel, you've got a job to do. Yeah. Oh, really good to see you. So we know that he swims a lot. You probably want to add it to your routine if you want to look young at his age. Boy, it's impressive. Totally impressive.
Thank you very much.
And you're a man of many parts. I went through your profile. You've done a lot. My goodness. Today we'll get to hear the story.
Well, that's why I'm here.
For starters, are you proud of your journey?
Yes, I'm proud of my journey. I'm proud of a lot of people who've helped me during this journey, because you can't make a journey like this on your own. You need you need a good foundation. And the foundation, of course, comes from the family. You need good mentors. You need good teachers. You need good friends. You know, and along the way, you need opportunities.
Right.
And I've been blessed.
We thank God. Your last position was the CEO of the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, right?
That's absolutely right.
So what does that mean?
With regards to
employment?
Okay. You mean, what am I doing now?
Yes.
Oh, that's very simple. After leaving GNPC, I took a break, just to catch up on family stuff. I'd been working non-stop since I came back from the U.S. in 2001.
Yeah.
I was at Standard Chartered Bank for about close seven odd years. I had been working with Standard Chartered Bank in New York and UBS for about 7 years. So, and as soon as I left Standard Chartered Bank, I joined the transition team, and I was part of the NDC transition team and in the energy sector, and I held the responsibility for NPA. And then GNPC. So I've not really had time to regroup and to refocus and get to know what I really want to do.
Wow.
So I had that opportunity to, spend time thinking about what to do. And I realized that what I wanted to do was to help young people who wanted to start their businesses, young people in the oil and gas business as well. To assist them in putting their strategies right and putting the organizations right, and making sure that whenever they had challenges, I could assist them and whatever those challenges were. So that's been part of it.
Is that some sort of social responsibility thing? Giving back? Is that it?
Well, I think I've given back a lot. Given back 8 years public service to the country, in these two areas. But yes, I think the more important thing is you have to dig deep and see what else is there, for you to do to impact on the youth. And for me, I think it's the knowledge I have gotten over the years, the skills and things. I think this is the time to impart it back to people who want help in the organization. So it's not only youth, but also the other organizations that I help that are, they're thriving businesses. And things like that. But yes, I try as much to mentor young ladies, especially who want to start business, who are having problems in establishing business, and also thinking about also doing something in the banking area, helping people who want to do work in the rural areas, rural banking, helping women, empowering women, giving women opportunities. So that's
so is this some sort of a consultancy?
It is, but it's pro bono. It's
pro bono.
Yeah, it's giving back. Yeah,
wow,
it's giving back.
So how do you keep up then, or you're well sorted?
Well, I worked in investment banking for a while. I worked in commercial banking for a while. So yes, and I'm an investment person, so I invested wisely, and that's why I don't have to.
Did it make you rich?
No, it didn't make me rich. It made me realize that money can work for you. If whatever you have and you save it and you invest it properly, you can use that, and because that's what I do for a living. I advise people how to make money. When I was in the banking area, so I realized that you can do that for yourself as well. So,
but how come it didn't make you rich?
It doesn't make you rich. It makes you okay. It depends on what rich is.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. You just don't want to admit it, but it's fine. It's fine. So, just 2 quick investment tips, since we're on that topic. If you had to advise anybody who wanted to invest or who wanted to make their money work for them, what would you tell them?
I would say one of the biggest investments you ever make, any young person, is your house. I know a lot of people like flashy cars, flashy watches, like I'm seeing over there.
Where?
So I think you need to invest. You need to invest in landed property.
At
least to get a solid base. You don't want to be put in a position where you're paying rent all the time. So in America, for example, one of the biggest things is there are tax breaks that the government allows you to be able to your mortgage, the interest on your mortgage is tax deductible. I think we are applying something similar here now, which is good. So people should take advantage of it. Many people do not know.
Okay.
But this is an area that, yes, I think the government, if we do not give that tax break, that's one of the areas that you can help young people build their first house at least.
Okay. Good stuff. Well, we're going to learn a lot more from Mr. Alex Kofi Mensah Mould here on Joy FM. But let's get to meet you. Where did you grow up? Where are you from? I know you're related to Betty Mould, did you see? She's your sister, isn't
Yes, she's one of my sisters. Yes.
One of your sisters? Yes. How many are they? How many other sisters do you have?
We are 13 all in all.
13?
Yes. On my mother's side, we're 4. Betty is the oldest. And
okay.
My other brother is William. But, I grew up in a family where my father was a businessman and my mother was an entrepreneur. And
so you were well-to-do?
No, it's
privileged.
Yeah, I think we were quite privileged, but we were never shown that privilege. We were always shown that it's hard work. You have to have a good education. You have to really lead a modest life. So we've always had that. We stayed in Abeka.
Abeka?
When Abeka was not Abeka, we stayed at somewhere close to La Paz. It was called Mold Chrome. There were no houses from the Abeka market to Abeka. My father was in timber business, and my father moved from area to area, from Kade, to Takoradi, where I was born. I was born in Takoradi.
Okay.
And my father is a Ga. But he originates from Winneba. And my mother she's Ashanti, but her father is French.
Wow.
And I was born in Takoradi, in the western region. And I'm not asking for my 10%.
Wow. So, growing up with a father who's in the business, your mom was an entrepreneur as well. What are some of the things you picked up from there? Were there challenges at home at some point?
I think it's the values that I have now is basically what I learned from my mother and my father, and those values are honesty, trustworthiness, responsiveness, and creativity. My mother was very creative in her business, and she insisted that we went to the best schools that she could afford. I was in association. I started association. I think when association started, I was in nursery, I think somewhere in 1964 or 5 or something like that. That's when association started. Then I went to Accra Academy. I was 11 years old when I went to Accra Academy. It was an eye-opener for me. But I think along the line, you meet people, you develop your character.
Right.
And at the end of it, it is the character and the values from your family, from the school, from your classmates. We are very close together with my classmates still, all the way to your working life. And I think that is one of the things I always cherish, the values that I learned as a child.
How was it like growing up with Betty Mould?
Oh, you know my sister Betty. She's the light of any party. She's one of the most awesome people you would ever come across. She's a very caring woman. She attracts people to her, like I don't know. It's not bees don't get attracted to honey, but something like that.
Can you recall the most striking moment with her, the most memorable moment with her, probably growing up?
Oh, there's so many. I mean, I remember one day I was an executive director of Standard Chartered Bank. I mean, big boy in Standard Chartered, and she comes into my office and she knows the HR manager. They were in class together in Achimota, and they're looking for me. And all my guys, they look up to me, right? My
boss,
my team, yes.
Yeah.
And then she comes into the place and shouts, "Where's my baby brother?"
You didn't take lightly to that, I'm sure.
Everybody got up to see who is that baby brother.
And here's the executive director coming out.
Yeah. But that's Betty for you.
Must be nice. So, really, though, when you were growing up, what kind of career path were you hoping to chart? Did you have ambitions career-wise?
Well, I think it all started somewhere when I was in university. I did chemical engineering. Most people don't know. I did chemical engineering at Tech.
At Kenya still?
Yeah,
okay.
Kenya. So we graduated in 85. We had a 5-year university because of tax force and all of that. So I graduated, and when I was in the 3rd year, my vacation, I got an opportunity which changed my life. It was an opportunity by a company called PFI, and it was Primary Fuels Incorporated, and they had taken over the rig in Saltpond from Agripetco, who found oil in 1978. Yes, we did find oil in 1978, and we're producing 5,000 barrels a day, when we found oil. So I had an opportunity to go onto the rig, and that was the first time I got encounter with petroleum.
Okay.
It was fascinating. Staying on the rig for 6 weeks.
Wow.
And learning the operations, and I was scrubbing. I was doing everything, like a roastabout would do on a rig, on the vessel. I had a project. They gave me a project to do. The MD of PFI, after 4 weeks being there, gave me a project to do, which also made me understand the operations very well. So when I got back to university, for my 4th year, I became very focused, and I think that changed my life. I became focused. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. Luckily, GMPC was set up in 1984.
That's a year before you graduated.
Yes, and in 1985, they had started recruiting, and I was one of the first. In fact, I think there were 2 national service people that year.
Wow.
And I was one of them. And that's why I said it's an opportunity. And that changed my life. It changed my whole perspective on business, my whole perspective on the oil industry. So I've been in the oil industry since 1985.
Wow.
Yeah.
Impressive. So you did your national service at GMPC?
I did my national service at GMPC, mainly at Tamari Refinery. I worked in Tamari Refinery for 2 years. And then I left there back into GMPC's head office. They were in Cuckoo Hill, the old Black Star Line building where Duncan's is. We were there till I think 1989 or so, and we moved to Tema, and I had the opportunity to be working with Mr. Chachu Chikata, and I became a special assistant in marketing. And yes, it was an opportunity that made me realize I needed to do something in finance. So I went to do my MBA in finance in 1992. I finished in 1994, and then I joined Bankers Trust in New York. And then I joined Union Bank of Switzerland in 1995.
By this time you had left GNPC?
Yes, by that time I left GNPC in 1995. And in 1997, Standard Chartered Bank took over UBS's trade finance. Okay. So I was doing structured trade finance, which is basically raising medium-term capital for industry through exports. And it resonated with what we'd be doing in Ghana, because I remember in 1989, GMPC actually did the first cocoa board deal where we raised money against cocoa. And I was involved in that. So it was always something that resonated, that I wanted to do something outside that I could come back to Ghana and make an impact doing it in Ghana.
Why didn't you come back to Ghana immediately?
I did come back to Ghana immediately after that.
But it didn't work in Ghana? It
didn't work in Ghana. This is one of the areas that I realized that when I was running any corporation, anybody you send out to do a master's, anybody you send out to say, you have to make sure that you have a plan for when they come back. And that is one of the things that I think we have to make sure, from a human resource perspective, we chart people's careers, and if we send them out, we know what exactly they're coming back to be doing.
So what, GMPC sent you out?
Yes, they did.
And when you came back, there was no place for you?
Yes, there was no real opportunity. I tried as much as possible to see what I could do, but they were not ready for me.
Wow. Even after training you for 2 years?
Yes.
Interesting. Was that a disappointing moment for you?
It was disappointing, and that is what it boils down to management. And I think it's important that managers of organizations should ensure that we look at our assets, and assets are our people, and how we train our people, and what plans we have for our people.
Yeah. Well, this is a whole HR lesson on its own, and if you're an HR person, you probably take a bit from that. So, what, out of frustration, you decided, well, let me just head back out to the US?
Yes.
Ah.
Yeah.
How long did you stay in Ghana without a job?
I wasn't without a job. I was in GMPC, but I didn't have any role to play.
So what, you were being paid?
No. I think I was being paid, yeah. So what I did was I went out and I came back and I settled with GMPC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about your sojourn out there. You went into finance now?
Yes, I did.
Standard Chartered?
Yes, Standard Chartered Bank mainly.
Mm-hmm.
And it was mainly in the commodity finance and structured trade finance.
How was that whole new experience?
It wasn't too different because I trained for it. I trained for it in business school, so I was ready for finance. I actually majored in accounting, finance, and decision science. So I was prepared for finance, and I like finance. I enjoyed it a lot. Any engineer really does well in the finance world.
Okay, and you now stay there for how long?
I stayed in the U.S. for 7 years, and I came back in 2001.
What brought you back?
The children. I insisted that our children should go to school in Ghana.
Why?
I wanted them to experience going to school in Ghana, and also to experience what I experienced. So we made a decision, my wife and I, that we were always coming back to Ghana. We actually had no intention of staying in the U.S.
You didn't think there were better opportunities there, probably for education?
Not really. I think it's almost at par, especially at the primary level, maybe in the university level. Maybe there's a difference, but definitely at the primary level and the secondary level. We went to Accra. I went to Accra, and my wife went to Achimota, and we turned out very good.
Well, that's a vote of confidence in our education system. Even better now with the new uniforms, I'm sure. If you have any questions for Mr. Alex Mode, you can send us a WhatsApp on 0244340437 or any message to him as well. You can do that. So now what? You're back to Ghana with Standard Chartered Bank in Ghana.
Yes, I joined Standard Bank in Ghana, responsible for structured trade business in West Africa, and after a year they offered me a position to head the corporate bank, as an executive director. So I was executive director for about 6 years in Standard Chartered Bank, on the board, running the corporate banking, and we became one of the most profitable corporate banks in Africa.
What made you excel in that role?
I think it's a few things. Good people, making sure you hire the right people, good people who understand the strategy, understand the objectives, have good relationship management, have a good grasp of finance, a good grasp of the industries that they were managing, and also working with them, making them understand that if your client's problem is your problem. So people, one. Two, understanding the industry and the sector. We wouldn't invest in any sector that we didn't understand. And second, we wouldn't invest in any organization that would not believe in the management. So
at what point did politics come in?
Well, I was doing this till 2008. And Standard Chartered Bank wanted me to go back to the UK to, do some business there. And I wanted to do something in Africa. So I think we had a crossroads there, and I decided to leave Standard Chartered Bank. So I was home for about 2 weeks, and I got a call as to they needed my expertise.
You resigned?
Yes, I did resign. Yes, in Standard Chartered. So I was out of portfolio, out of salary.
And you didn't have any other job?
A new plan? No, I didn't.
You didn't have a plan?
No, I didn't have a new plan at all. I wanted to take time. Like I said, I'd been working for, almost how many years? 15, 16 years. And I wanted to take time out to decide what I wanted to do. Then I got a call, and the call said, "Could you come and assist us in the transition team for the NDC?"
And this call came from the NDC?
Yeah, it came from the NDC.
Were you a member then?
Yes. I did go, and it had to do with the energy industry, and that was my forte because I finance most of the organizations, the SOEs,
right.
The VRAs, the GNPCs, the Tamale refineries. So I knew their balance sheets, I knew the challenges, I knew the problems, and I knew how we could help them. And so my participation was how we could help them.
Okay. So it wasn't like you were in politics early on because you probably wanted to have a political portfolio, or not at all.
No, not at all.
You didn't have any political ambitions.
No, I didn't even know what politics was about.
You didn't?
No, I just knew that one party, another party. I knew that the philosophies behind them.
Yeah.
And I did like the philosophy behind the NDC, which is more of a social democratic philosophy, which resonates very well with me and my upbringing.
Interesting. So now that you got in, of course, you were part of the transition team. You were called as well to head the National Petroleum Authority.
Yes.
That was soon after, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was about 3 months after that. Yeah.
And how did you take that?
I was in stride. It was a piece of cake. It was an industry I knew very well. I financed the whole industry before, so I knew the industry I knew the players in the industry. I knew the industry. My predecessor, John Atefa, was a very good friend of mine. We worked together when he was at the ministry and I was at GNPC for about 5-7 years. So the handing over was smooth. It was good. I realized that, like any new CEO, when you take over, you have to understand the situation.
Yeah.
You have to understand what challenges the organization has. And one of them was the organization was not making money, so they needed to make money, and they also needed to instill discipline in the industry. So those were the two pillars.
Were you able to make money?
Yeah, it was very easy to make money.
How did you turn it around?
You just make people pay what they owe you. If you want a license, you pay for the license. And you have to abide by the rules of engagement. If you flout the rules of engagement, you're slapped with a penalty, and you just have to be firm on that, So it wasn't a problem at all making money. Making money is not a problem for me. I run organizations, and I know how to get organizations out of trouble.
That part you mentioned about getting them to pay sounds like you lost a lot of friends then.
Well, you're not in this game to make friends. You're in this game to meet your objectives, and your objectives is to make sure that the industry runs smoothly. The industry runs smoothly if people abide by agreements. My agreement is I'll give you a license and you will pay for it. So why aren't you paying? If you don't pay, we take the license from you, no matter who you are. If you're Goyle and you don't pay, we take your license from you. We stop you from loading.
Interesting. Now, you also got to be the CEO of the GNPC, the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation. That was under President Mahama's government. Was that it?
That's absolutely right.
Yeah. How was it like working with him?
Oh, it was very good. I mean, it was very clear what your objectives were. His leadership was a style I liked. He wasn't on a day-to-day asking you what you're doing. It's very clear what your objectives are. You have a board. You're working with your board. You are put there to solve the challenges. You're not put there to escalate them upwards. That's not the job. So you have to make sure you have your tactical imperatives to execute the strategy that has been approved by the board. So that is what it is. But what I always insisted on when I was taking the job was that I be given a good board. As a CEO, you want a board that would assist you to achieve the objectives. You want a board that will challenge you. You don't want a board that you can just ride over. You want a board that's going to push you. When you go to a board meeting, you have to prepare. You have to make sure that you can answer all the tough questions. If you're not getting that, then your board is not effective.
Would you say you were successful at your job at the GNPC?
I think we were very successful, both at NPA and at GNPC. Our objectives were very clear, what we wanted to do. Our strategy was very clear. We revamped the strategy. And we put GNPC on course. GNPC was to become a high-performing organization. GNPC was to become an operator in the future. GNPC was also set to ensure that we followed the law that put GNPC in place, which makes sure that any oil or gas that we produce, we can evacuate it properly. So when Ghana Gas came in place, our job was to ensure that Ghana Gas could deliver. And any other ancillary business, whether it was the power sector, we had to ensure that they were strong enough to ensure that we do not fail, because we are strong as the weakest link in the value chain. And our balance sheet is the most important thing in any organization. Your balance sheet, which reflects your profitability over the years, your balance sheet, which reflects your character, is what you are going to use to be able to raise money. You
think John Mahama was impressed with your job?
I think he was impressed with it. I mean, he must have been impressed with the job. He kept me there for a while.
Were you impressed with his job as president of Ghana?
Yes, I definitely was impressed with his job. I mean, you have to understand what the objectives are and also what the situation was when a president comes in. It's not easy just to measure two presidents without understanding what situation the economy was in, what situation he found himself in, what situation, all the drivers, like the oil price and inflation in the world and what the geopolitical issues were. If you put that in perspective, then you can actually measure two leaders. But you have to understand there were challenges. There was doomsday. There was oil prices dropping from $130, $140 all the way down to something close to $40. So government didn't have revenue. And then immediately, despite what strategy you have to revisit it and look to see how you're going to change your tactical imperatives to meet these challenges. Leadership is about making those big, bold, paradigm-changing decisions, and if you can't do that as a leader, you definitely would have failed your people.
You were at the forefront with him, and you probably, were in the face of all of these parameters you were talking about. Do you think that he really did make the right decisions with governance, with all of these variables at play?
I absolutely think so. And I think, when you have a leader who has been able to achieve so much, being able to put infrastructure, because what was his main objective? His main objective was to put infrastructure in the country, make sure we had energy, to be able to attract investment, to move the economy on. And if you're measuring of those, yes.
Were you disappointed that people voted him out?
I was quite disappointed, but there were signs that were showing that people were, the people of Ghana were not happy with certain things. And that may be because the people of Ghana didn't understand the challenges that were faced.
Is that what you think?
And the journey they had taken to where they had gotten to. And I believe that if a chance had been given to continue, it would have been a better path. We went into the IMF for specific reasons, for discipline, for specific reasons. We were to get the funding needed to do certain things. We brought in a lot of generation capacity to meet the generation shortfall. We revamped a lot of the old plants. We put financing together. The ESLA was put together to ensure that we could ring fence the old debt and make sure that the new debt, there'll be no new debt, by putting in a cash waterfall to ensure that everybody in the power sector was paid. The efficiency would go up by ECG. So there are a lot of things in the pipeline.
Yeah.
And people, the story really needs to be told so people understand that everything we are seeing today was because of work done in the past.
And obviously, a lot of people still weren't impressed, and that's how come they voted him out.
That's true.
What do you think are his chances for 2020?
I think he stands a good chance. I was just watching Real Madrid the other day, and Real Madrid, they were doing very well, and Zidane was let go, and then the new coach came in, and he was not doing too well. Because much was expected of Zidane. Had put a real team together. He had put the team together. They were doing very well, and all of a sudden they started not doing well, and they brought Zidane back, and the team is revamped. So I think everybody needs a second chance. Everybody needs a second chance. And what you do when you have a second chance, you put a performance improvement plan in place, exactly how you're going to execute it this time. So yes, I think he does need a second chance.
Don't you think you would make a fine running mate?
What does that mean?
Do you think you will make a fine running mate?
I think that anybody who's going to assist, who's going to assist John Mahama and NDC needs to have strong leadership qualities and needs to have a strong grasp of the economy.
Do you have that?
Yes, I do have that. Many people like me have that.
Would you want to be the running mate for John Mahama?
No, I don't think I would at this moment want to do.
You don't want it?
I don't want to be a running mate.
You don't want to be a running mate?
No.
You want to be the flag bearer?
No. I would like to give back and help our leaders in doing what I think I am capable of.
If he offered you that slot, would you take it?
Well, we'll have to have a conversation. But first of all, I would like to understand what my role is going to be in helping the organization.
I thought you were defining the role. I thought you were just telling me a few minutes ago what it takes to be running mate.
Yeah, well, what it takes to be a running mate means that you have to have a political ambition. If you don't have a political ambition, you may not be a good running mate. But
you don't have one?
The most important thing is, if you are good at certain things, you should be used in that capacity to do that. And I believe I have good leadership qualities. I believe I have the wherewithal to understand how to get out of situations.
So I think you will make a fine running mate.
Well, that's you thinking it.
What do you think?
Well, I think anybody who's given an opportunity to do that should be able to exhibit all of these things I have said.
Do you want that opportunity?
I don't want that opportunity now.
When do you want it?
I want it when I believe that the party and the leader of the party and the party believe that you are the person for it.
You talked about political ambition. You don't have political ambition?
No.
At all?
No.
You didn't accept any of the sort?
Well, I accepted to be the CEO of GMPC and I accepted to be the CEO of NPA. People say that's his political ambition. But yes, I accepted this because I wanted to give back what I believed I could, based on what I had learned all over the years, what the skills I had developed and the knowledge I have developed, and I think I was able to do that.
Last Wednesday, the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoudou Bawumia, touted government's economic performance at a town hall meeting. Did you listen?
No, I didn't listen, but I received some of the excerpts. Fortunately, I was in a meeting.
So he touched on the economy. He talked about the city depreciation, recent power outages, and whatnot. Based on what you saw, what do you think about the presentation, the excerpts that you picked up?
Well, I think he tried to explain what brought about the condition we are in and how they're going to get out of it. I think many people who saw it felt it was a presentation that could have been much better, could have explained things much better, and could have given confidence back to the people as to exactly what had been put in place so that this doesn't recur. And I think if you look at what's happening, you can see that generally there is a leadership gap. And I think we need to be very honest with the people of the country as to what the challenges are. We need to be very open as to what we need to do to get out of these challenges and what it will take. And if you're very open and honest, the people of Ghana will give you a chance.
So you think he was open and honest?
I don't think he came across as explaining it very well to a lot of people.
Do you think he was open and honest?
He was open and honest on where we were. I don't think he was able to explain exactly why we remain in that situation and how we're going to get out of that situation.
What's your objective assessment of the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo government?
Well, remember I told you earlier that you need to understand the situation the government was in or is in and what is expected of them. So I think it's more has to do with what the expectations were. And if you look at what the expectations were expectations are that the ordinary man, the ordinary Ghanaian should be able to get jobs, be able to have a livelihood, be able to send his children to school, be able to have health at a reasonable price. And these are the shortfalls, I think. These are the shortfalls that we are seeing.
You don't think they're doing a good job?
I think that they are underachieving.
They are underachieving?
I think so. They are underachieving.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rate them?
Well, if you're underachieving, you definitely are below 5. If you're doing what is expected of you, then you're around 5. If you're doing more than what is expected of you, then you're above 5.
What figure would you give them?
I would give them a figure about 3 to 4.
3 to 4.
4.
Wow, impressive. Or not. Now, you've worked at Standard Chartered Bank, you've worked in finance, you were executive director actually at Standard Chartered Bank, you were co-head of wholesale banking and so on for some years. Let me have your take quickly on the consolidated banks and banking issues that we had last year into this year.
Okay. Well, I think the banks that were consolidated and the banks that had some challenges, it was mainly due to, one, the regulator dropping the ball, the regulator not identifying the challenges that these banks were having in time and putting in a plan of improvement for these banks to do that. So the regulator definitely had a role to play. The board of directors also had a role to play in that they also been running this business and being reported to, they knew what was going on. And that is what it brings me to the point of making sure you have the right people on your boards who can challenge the CEO. They should understand the business. They should know what business they are in. And they should be able to assist the CEO in coming out of trouble. And I believe that once the Bank of Ghana identified challenges, the Bank of Ghana could have worked with these banks to put in a performance improvement plan to be able to come out of these challenges.
When you were CEO of GNPC, I remember some protest letters were sent to the Flagstaff House by a board member of the corporation for your removal. I remember that.
The board member of where?
GNPC?
I never remember that. There was never a board member.
Staff, actually. The GNPC staff claimed that you had overexposed the financial situation of GNPC by providing guarantee for major products. You remember that?
I don't remember that. It never came to my notice that. I never saw this at the board meeting. I never saw this anywhere.
You were fingered actually for making too many investments. Nothing of the sort came to your mind. You remember that?
It never came to me. I mean, I don't know where these letters went to, but they were never brought to my attention. And
at all.
And my board approved everything we were doing, and what we're doing was in line with the strategy of the organization.
You never had issues with staff who who were against some of your decisions?
No, I never had personally. I never received a letter from any staff, nor did I receive a letter from anybody they had sent that letter to. And I don't know where these letters came from. They may have come to the media, but I never received anything. And if I did have received any of this, I would have called the staff in question. I would have called a town hall and had a discussion with my staff, because I hold a very open office and my staff don't need an appointment, nor do anybody coming to see me need an appointment to come and address any issue.
There was some brouhaha as well around a contract with ENI.
There's still a brouhaha of the contract with ENI, and I even came out recently saying that the World Bank need to come and be very clear as to whether this was a good deal for Ghana or not. Because it seems as if a lot of people who really do not understand the intricacies of how such a project is financed and how the security structure is put in place to do such a project, which is, one would say, one of the first gas to power projects done in a developing country, which is supported by the largest guarantee ever by the World Bank, 700 million. That project is a world-class project, and actually it should be a Harvard Business case study as to how you put in such a difficult project in a difficult situation.
What was the most difficult part of your job, or the most difficult moment of your job at GNPC?
At GNPC, let me see. I think change management. instituting a performance management system. GNPC was an old organization, unlike MPA. MPA started in 2005 or so. So by the time I took over MPA in 2009, it was only 4 years old. And because it was a new organization, they didn't have a lot of structure and didn't have a lot of policies. So we had to do all of that at MPA. So it was quite easy making MPA a high-performing organization by putting performance management systems, rewarding people who work hard, and having a differential pay system for bonuses. Doing that at GNPC was a big challenge, because you have GNPC that has been there for almost 30 years. The culture is inculcated. It's more of a unionized type organization, and trying to change them to become a high-performing organization, trying to bring in different organization, matrix-type organization structure, bring in a performance management system where there will be differential bonuses, and the bonuses will be based on your performance, having right objectives set. It was a journey. I won't say it was difficult, but it was a journey, and I didn't underestimate it. I worked with the team. We worked with the whole staff, educated the staff exactly where we're going before we started the implementation. So I think that helped in doing that, making sure that everybody was on board. We listened to people's complaints and challenges. We explained them what the journey was and where we were going and what we wanted to do. We wanted to be an operating future. We wanted to be, like an ExxonMobil or a Petrobras. We wanted to be able to sit boot to boot with people like Tullow, E&I. So to do that, you really have to bring change management into it. So that I would say was it. But I was prepared for that, because that's what I was trained to do at Standard Chartered Bank. So it was bringing in all the best practices that I had over the years, that learned over the years, into the public sector. And I think that is one thing that most people should do. We have to have, government is the biggest business in this country and in most developing countries. So we have to have our best people in business. Our best people in this business from the private sector come to the public sector, migrate the best practices from the private sector into the public sector, so that we have strong public sector institutions, and we have strong regulations. Because if we do not have that, we will not be able to have a strong private sector, and we will not be able to grow the way we want to grow.
Politics, finance, oil and gas, you have the experience. What's the biggest lesson all this has taught you?
Well, the biggest lesson for me is you really need to give back to society. Society has been kind to you. You have benefited in the past, and you really need to give back. And that is my journey. My journey is I really want to give back one way or the other, whether it be working in the public sector, whether it's helping the governments in advising them and being on their side, so that when we meet the private sector, we have a strong, vibrant public sector who can meet them and make sure that they do not take us for granted.
What would you say was the happiest day of your life?
Happiest day of my life? Wow. I've had many happy days.
Which one comes to mind readily?
I think when my daughter was born.
Ah.
Yeah, I think so.
When was that?
My first child. 1992.
Okay.
Yeah, when she was born.
How many do you have now?
2. Just 2 is the same.
2?
Yeah.
Are we expecting?
Yeah, they're old now. My daughter is 27 and my son is about 24 now.
So what, pension baby coming soon?
Yeah, be very careful over there.
How long have you been married?
Oh, we've been married for, I think, 29 years or so.
Huh.
Yeah, 29 years.
You go back home, no problem.
Yeah, 29 years. But I've been going out with my wife since high school, so. Yeah, so it's like 40.
High school sweetheart.
It's like 40 years we've been going out. So.
Wow. What's the most romantic thing you've done?
Proposed to her, I think.
How did you do that?
I just asked her, would you marry me?
Really? That's like the most unromantic thing.
Yeah. No, I'm a Ghana. We're not very romantic. Apparently, we're not very romantic. So.
How do you relax, though?
Well, my pastime is I spend a lot of time with myself. I love fantasy football. I love soccer. Everybody knows I support Asante Kotoko and Liverpool. So
and Liverpool.
If I can get any opportunity to watch a match, I go and watch a match.
We're playing you on Sunday at Chelsea, and
you're playing us at Anfield.
You have an opportunity to beg me on behalf of Chelsea, so that.
Well, Chelsea is on fire, and I like that because, one of the best things that happens in an organization is if you're not challenged, you don't perform. So I think you will see the best out of Liverpool on Sunday.
Good luck on Sunday. I'll call you after the match.
Please do. I do play a lot of fantasy football.
Okay, good stuff.
I'm doing quite well on the league in Ghana right now.
I hope you win the ultimate, or you don't think you are going to win?
No. It's not about always getting the ultimate. It's always about
enjoying the ride.
What objective you set? My objective was I want to be in the top, 20 or something like that.
And you are?
Yeah, last week I was number 4, but this week I came down to like number 9.
Wow.
Yeah.
As we wrap up, there are lots of young people listening who probably look up to you as well. What would be your final words to Ghanaians?
Well, my final words to them is, you have to prepare, you have to work hard. Throughout my career, I try as much as possible to understand the industry I am in. I try as much as possible to understand the company I am, what their aim is, what is their strategy, what are the objectives. I try as much as possible to be a stakeholder of whatever I'm doing. And I think young people need to not only think about what the organization is going to give them, but really what can they also give to the organization they are with, whether it's a private sector, public sector, whether it's an NGO, whether it's a school, a church, whatever it is. How do you make sure that company can continue in a sustained manner?
Amazing stuff. Thank you very much, Mr. Mould.
Always a pleasure.
Great spending time with you.
Pleasure.
And my regards to Mrs.
I will tell her.
Personality profile on Joy 99.7 FM. What an enthralling conversation I've had with this very fine gentleman, former CEO of the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, Mr. Alex Mould on Joy 99.7 FM. Stay tuned in. News coming up. Uncle Ken will be on your radio shortly. And God willing, tomorrow, we're back with another edition of Drive Time on Joy. Let's find out what's happening in news now.